What actually happens if you're caught driving on a suspended license in New Jersey, and how quickly can a simple mistake turn into jail time or a criminal record? The answer surprises a lot of people. In this video, I'm going to cover three important things. First, what the penalties are in New Jersey for driving on a suspended license and how they get worse every time it happens. Second, when these cases can often be fixed, reduced, or even dismissed, and what makes the difference. And third, why driving on a suspended license for DUI is treated very differently and how it can quickly turn into jail time or even a felony. One of the most common reasons people get charged with driving while suspended is a simple misunderstanding. The suspension period ends and they honestly believe that they're then allowed to drive again. What they don't realize is this. In New Jersey, a driver's license does not automatically become valid just because the suspension period ends. Until the Motor Vehicle Commission formally restores the license is still suspended. Now, most of the time, restoration means just paying a fee. But until that happens, the license is still legally suspended, even if weeks or months have gone by since the suspension ended. The law looks at license status, not intent. It doesn't matter that you thought you were allowed to drive. That misunderstanding is exactly how responsible people end up charged with driving while suspended. That's why it's important to explain this first, before talking about penalties. This is how people get into trouble before they even realize they've done anything wrong. In New Jersey, driving while suspended is a status offense. That means whether you knew your license was suspended doesn't matter, with one exception. If the Motor Vehicle Commission has not restored your license, you are legally suspended. Good intentions don't change that. Honest mistakes don't stop the charge. Once you understand that, the penalties make more sense. So let's talk about them. For a non-DUI suspended license, the penalties escalate quickly. A first offense carries a $500 fine, a second offense is a $750 fine, and up to 5 days in jail, and a third or later offense comes with a $1,000 fine and 10 days in jail. And that's not all. Each offense can also lead to an additional license suspension of up to 180 days. On top of that, there's a $250 per year surcharge for 3 years. These convictions never come off your driving record, which is why the penalties keep getting worse over time every time you're ticketed for it, even if the underlying issue never changed. Now, here's the part a lot of people don't expect. Many driving while suspended cases are fixable. A large number of these cases involve administrative or restorable suspensions. When the license was restorable at the time the ticket was issued, can be restored, and is restored promptly, courts will often downgrade the charge to failure to produce a license at the scene or even dismiss it entirely. Timing matters. Restoration matters. Your driving history matters. Taking action early can make a real difference. But as I said before, restoration isn't automatic. It usually involves paying the Motor Vehicle Commission restoration fee. It can also mean addressing issues that stand in the way of you restoring your license, such as dealing with unpaid surcharges or fines, fixing insurance-related suspensions, or going to court on unresolved tickets that triggered the suspension in the first place. Because if you didn't appear on an earlier ticket, the court will order the suspension of your license. And until that restoration is completed and recorded by the Motor Vehicle Commission, you can't legally drive. In some cases, as I mentioned earlier, lack of notice can matter. When it comes to administrative suspensions, the state may have to prove that you were properly notified of the suspension. Many problems, address changes, or administrative errors can all affect whether a case goes forward or gets dismissed, depending on whether they can prove that you actually received notice. It's important to understand that driving while suspended for a DUI is treated very differently. These cases carry much harsher consequences. If you're under a DUI suspension for a first offense, and that suspension is active at the time you're pulled over by the police and issued a ticket for driving while suspended, you could be facing, in addition to the penalties I mentioned earlier, 10 to 90 days in jail, a $500 fine, and additional license suspension time added on. If it happens again, or if the active suspension was for a second or later DUI, it can become a fourth-degree crime. That means potential state prison time and fines of up to $10,000. These cases often involve people who are desperate to get to work or to keep their jobs, but that desperation can lead to devastating legal outcomes. And the consequences don't stop in the courtroom. Driving while suspended can cost you your job, leave you with a criminal record that follows you for life, and create long-term financial damage that can't be undone later. The rules are strict, but outcomes depend on why your license was suspended, whether it was restorable at the time the ticket was issued, and what steps you've already taken. But to make any of this information useful, it has to be applied to your specific situation. If you've been ticketed for driving while suspended in New Jersey, getting advice early can make a real difference. And if your ticket was issued in Burlington, Camden, Gloucester, Salem, or Cumberland County, you can click in the link in the description to schedule a call with me to discuss your case. I'll look at why your license was suspended, whether it can be restored, and what steps may help limit the consequences you're facing.